Monday, everyone. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city in New Orleans, from the Light Gate at UPRN, United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM, and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We're on Facebook, we're on Roku, we're on Rumble, and we're on YouTube. We have a wonderful night ahead of us. It's going to be exciting. We want to thank our sponsors, Carnation. Thank you so much. Our network loves you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, well, I'm just passing it over to you, Preston. Go.
All right. I see we both got the memo, black shirts for astronomy. I think our guest did too. That's funny. All right. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on episode 115 of the Lightgate 115. We're trucking right along. Thank you so much. Super excited about our guest tonight. And we'll be introducing him in just a second. Of course, I am your host, Preston Dennett. My lovely co-host is Dolly Safran. We're super excited that you've all joined us tonight. I already said that. But let me just say a quick hello to all you folks in chat. I'm going to be quick this time because I really want to get to our guest who has an enormous amount of knowledge to share and some pretty interesting stories as well. So let's see, who do we have here? We have the lovely Polly Rotterman, former guest. Hope you're doing well, Polly. Prayers to you. Who else do we have? We have Robin. Happy Tuesday. Oh, I guess you must be in Australia. I think that's the only place that it's Tuesday already. We have Teresa Levine. We have Mountain Dan from Tennessee. Scarlet Fire, so sad in Texas. Oh, yes. All our prayers to the people who are dealing with the horrific tragedy in Texas. Just unthinkably sad. Wow. Oh, goodness. Okay, who else do we have here? We have Janie Mashburn. We have Helena Nyberg. We have Robin. Let's see who we have. Oh, Namaste. Amazing. We love you, Namaste. You know that, but it definitely bears repeating. We love you. Thank you so much for your
wonderful person I know. Actually, yes.
You're wonderfully generous and kind. We have the Owl Man.
Hey, Owl Man.
Well. We have Louise from New Jersey.
Yeah, Louise.
Bob Thorson.
Hi, Bob.
How are you doing? You know, Dolly, we need to do a Q&A coming up. Just seeing Bob's name reminded me of that. He won one of the books. So we'll have to do that. It's been a while.
Cool. Thank you, Bob.
We have Cherise Bazila.
Hello.
We have Patsy.
Hey, Patsy.
Hi, Patsy. Hope you're doing well. We got Flea Market Gold. We got a nice crowd going here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've seen you here before, Sweetly Morbid Bear, but thank you for joining us. I would remember that name.
Very memorable. Thank you.
We have Olivia sending blessings of love and light. Thank you, Olivia.
Yeah.
And we have Kurt, W75.
Hey, Kurt.
Apparently you know Mark. Mark, great to see you, buddy. Thank you for your time. Very cool.
Wonderful.
We have Fun Talks TV. It's Tuesday in Europe too. Okay. I guess it is at 1 a.m. Thank you, Fun Talks. We got Mish. We have My Vlog Sunny. Thank you, My Vlog Sunny.
Yes.
So wonderfully supportive, spreading our posts, so sharing them. Thank you very, very much. We have quite a few people. We got Rocco Macri.
Hello.
Kaleidoscope Eyes. Hi, all.
Hello.
John Markey.
Hey, Markey. Hey, John.
Bear. You saw me last week and elsewhere. Okay, we're from the same area. Oh, cool. Okay.
My goodness.
All right. Cool. Well, I'm going to get started out. Well, here's one more. Steve Wolfbrandt. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us, Steve. And Black Horse Living Room, all the way from Ireland.
Hello. Yeah.
Okay. Spaced Out Radio a few years back. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, I'm seriously going to get started now. Okay. Yeah. Our guest tonight is the amazing Marc Dantonio. He's a leading astronomer and author. He's got this book out here. Definitely check it out. There are links in the show notes to a bunch of his stuff. Let me tell you a little bit about Marc. Let's see here, I've got his bio. Marc has a degree in astronomy and is the chief photo video analyst for the largest aerial anomaly organization on Earth. How about that? He's the host of Sky Radio, Tour Radio on KGRA Radio, and is the host and creator of Sky Tour live stream with Marc Dantonio on YouTube. Check his YouTube channel out, you guys. It's amazing. This is where people can go to watch live as beautiful deep night sky objects materialize before their eyes in mere seconds, courtesy of very sensitive cameras and Sky Tour Observatory research telescopes. Marc does quite a few things. He's quite accomplished. He's the CEO of FX Models, a model making and visual special effects company specializing in digital, physical models and organic special effects in the film industry, and is, of course, is the author of the book you see here, The Populated Universe. I love this subtitle. Life may very well be the rule and not the exception. Of course, available on Amazon. Check that out. And let's just get Marc here in the studio. Boom.
Wow. Hey, guys. How are you?
We're doing great.
Wow. This is fantastic. So good to see you guys. And finally, a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, Dolly was super excited when we found you. We're like, we really wanted to get you on the show because you have such a fantastic knowledge base. We are both huge fans of astronomy, as I told you earlier.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of speculation out there in the UFO field.
Yeah.
All different types of ETs. And are they from Zeta Reticula? What about the Pleiades? All of these things.
Yeah.
We just want to lay down some straight science tonight and also hear about your interesting experiences because I know you've had some.
Yeah. Sure. That's exciting. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Well, as I told you before the show, we love to start each show asking about the guest and what were they like as little kids? Were you skeptical? Did you believe in UFOs? Have you had any unusual experiences? Have you ever seen a UFO? What brought you to where you are today, such a prominent figure in the astronomy field?
Well, I got to tell you right now, I wasn't sure about astronomy until I was 9 years old. And at age 9, and I know people have heard, some of the people have heard this story, I had a missing time event where I lost an entire day, and I was on a school field trip at the time to a pond in Torrington, Connecticut called Burr Pond, Burr. And I remember getting on the bus with my little bag lunch in the morning because this was a special end of the year trip to the pond. And I sat down in the seat with my little bag lunch in my hand. I remember getting off the bus at the pond, and all of a sudden I'm getting back on the bus at the pond. And I still have my lunch in my hand. And I'm saying to the kids around me, when are we getting to the pond? I thought we just got here. And they're jumping around and all hyper, and they're whacking you around because kids, you know, are so good to other kids at that age. And they said, we've been there all day, you jerk. Where have you been? Just sitting there with my lunch. I don't know. So I got home. I put my lunch on the counter. My mother said, why didn't you eat your lunch? I went, I don't know. And she says, go out and play. I'll call you when dinner's ready. So I went out in the empty lot next to my house. I was playing with a friend. And all of a sudden, I started feeling very strange, and I collapsed, and I started having seizures, and I was in convulsive fits, and I'm banging my head on the ground really hard, and I hear that dull thud of your forehead hitting the ground really hard, and I'm seeing little red ants running around going, oh, look at the ants, and not even concerned at what's happening to me. I'm just seeing the ants going, oh, look at all those ants, you know, not even thinking about my condition at the current state. And they called an ambulance. They took me to the hospital right away. And the doctor took a look at my forehead and said, oh, I know what happened. He has a concussion because, look, he fell and hit his head. See all the sand embedded in his forehead? No, that was after the fact. Dolly sees it. Okay. So I didn't know what to do, you know. So they said, is that right? Oh, yeah, I think that's right. And maybe I fell on a dock at the pond or something. I don't remember. And they just said, okay, well, we're going to take all that sand out of your forehead so it doesn't get infected. And that was the part that hurt the most because it was like a burn
Right.
You know?
They debride it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Don't say that. I hate that word. Okay. But yes, exactly right. No, they had to debride it and remove all of the nasty stuff. And that was very, very difficult. And so that hurt more than anything else. So anyway, I ended up coming home. It never happened again to this day. But I lost that whole day. But the strange thing is, at age 9, later on in the year, after summer was over, I was going into like, fourth grade, fourth grade. I had to have surgery, and it kept me home for a month. But after that event, every time I went outside at night, I was kind of afraid of the dark, inexplicably. And I would look up at the stars and feel like I was being watched. Okay, very, very strange. And so that led me to thinking about the stars and thinking there's got to be more people out there like us, like me. And I just kept thinking that, and I don't know why. Maybe it was maybe it's a memory buried up in this mush somewhere. I don't know. Okay, but I ended up deciding at age 9 that I was going to be an astronomer. I think for a while I was calling it an astronomer. I couldn't even say the word.
Yeah.
What do you want to be when you grow up, Marky? I want to be an astronomer. Oh, wow. Okay. What's an astronomer?
Wow.
He wants to look at the stars. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So that led me on a mission. And so from that point forward, from age 9 forward, I never wavered. It was astronomy all the way. I asked my parents to buy me a telescope at age 10, and they did. And that telescope was my trusty companion at night. Somehow, when I could look at the stars, I could feel comfortable that they weren't threatening me in any way. And I began to study the mysteries and the clusters of stars I saw, hopelessly inadequate to try and deduce what the universe was like. Because at the time, none of us were, in the human race at that point. We didn't really understand that there were other worlds out there like our own. Now we know somewhat differently. So it's pretty interesting. So that led me on that mission. And then after that surgery I mentioned to you, I was home for a month, from school. And during the time when I was laid up like that, I decided to make a space station plan. And I made 10 or 20 pages on regular notebook paper, torn out of a notebook with little frayed edges on it. Page by page by page by page. I drew up every element. I came up with ideas. I even started going to the library and asking Mrs. Brown, the librarian, if I could go to the grown-up section upstairs from the child section where I was with all little chairs. Okay. Yep. I wanted to go where the big chairs were because I wanted to take out books on chemistry and astronomy. And at first she was like, "Oh, I don't know, Marky. That's probably not a good idea." And I said, "Call my dad. He'll let me do it." And she did. And he did. He goes, "I can't get in the way," sort of like that, right? That's sort of paraphrasing. I can't get in the way of knowledge. And so I had this big giant stack of books that I could barely carry. And my mother said when I got in the car, "Are you going to read all those?" And I went, "Every bit of them." Of course I didn't. But I got a lot out of the chemistry books and a lot of the astronomy books. And I learned a lot about chemistry for the parts I could understand.
Right.
Because I was good with symbols. And so just like with languages, I'm good with languages. I can absorb languages a little easier than other people.
Right.
It's the way my brain is designed. I don't know what you call it. It's a gift. It's a curse, right? That kind of thing. Well, so with chemistry, it was more of a curse, and I'll tell you why. I wanted to test out my knowledge, so I read. I read the bottle of Drano, and it said sodium hydroxide, NaOH. I knew Na was sodium. I knew O was oxygen. I knew H was hydrogen. And I said, "You know what? I bet you I could figure out a way to take that hydrogen off this NaOH molecule."
Oh my God.
This compound.
Yeah.
And I was right. I figured out how to do it. So I poured Drano into a big water bottle. It was actually one of those glass water jugs,
Right,
old-fashioned water coolers. I stuffed metal shavings down the hole in the opening. I made a pile of metal shavings this deep on the bottom, fill it with water. Okay, I got the metal shavings from a little tool place next to our house, and then I poured in the Drano. It was more like, Ma, can I borrow the Drano? Now, back then, it wasn't that big a deal. Well, you better be careful. I will. Don't use it all up. I won't. I went outside, poured the whole bottle into my thing. Okay. And now it's starting to really percolate. Then I went inside and I got on my bike while that was percolating. I went down to my father's business. He owned a small laundry. He cleaned other people's dirty clothes for a living. Talk about someone with no ego, right? This guy was amazing, my dad. And I would work for $1 an hour to fold towels because he'd also pick up dirty towels from the schools, okay, and clean them and bring them back. Well, anyway, I said, Dad, can I have some of those clothing bags? Because I wanted to make my balloons of hydrogen out of those. And he said, well, how many do you want? I said, 10.
Oh, no.
I can give you 3. So in my head, I'm calculating. Okay, 3. I took 3, bundled them up, went home on my bicycle. Okay, cut them in half, taped the ends, and made 6 balloons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then I took the end and poked it on the end of the bottle with all this hydrogen coming out.
Hydrogen, yeah.
And unfortunately, I got a lot of water vapor on the inside. So that led me to want to get rid of the water vapor. So I said, how am I going to do that? I need to trap out the water. Now, this is a 10-year-old talking like this. That was weird. So I went into my mother and I said, Ma, can I have some milk?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay. Thank you. Glug, 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 pour it down the sink, wash it out, empty it out. Ma, do we have any cotton? In the bathroom. Okay. The whole bag with me. Filled the jug full of cotton. And I saw a second full gallon of milk.
Your poor parents.
Oh, yeah. Wash it out. More cotton. I used all the cotton, all the Drano, all the milk. Okay. And when I did that, I had finally the tools with which to concoct my next mission, which was to create pure hydrogen. So I noticed that the hydrogen coming out was filling these little balloons. And once I added the milk jug with cotton to another milk jug with cotton to an output pipe going to the bag was nice and clean, no water inside. So I poked a hole in the bottom of each milk jug and the water was dripping constantly. So it was getting trapped by the cotton. I was so proud of myself.
Rightly so.
No,
I have one. Okay, people, and I want to hear about this.
You kind of know where this is going.
Yes, I do.
So I would set up these balloons. I would let them go out in the middle of the empty lot, and I would shoot them with flaming arrows.
10 years old.
The only way to test, right? I'm a little cowboy and Indian, thing. A little cowboy and Indian thing. I dunked it in gasoline, lit it up. No one could see that I was playing with matches. And I shot it up in the air, and it bounced off the balloon. The balloon kept on going. It fell back down the lot. And I'm watching the balloon sail away, and not realizing I just set the entire lot on fire.
Yep.
So I'm like, I run over and pat, banging out the lot. Okay. It was just like, oh my gosh, it was like the worst possible thing. So then I was more careful with the next balloon. I tethered it to the ground and I shot the arrow at it and just pushed it out of the way, and it came back and floated, and the arrow kept right on going and set more lot on fire. So I'm stomping it out. So finally I said, this isn't working. I got to test if this is going to actually be boomy enough. Right. So I got a long stick. Okay, now to a kid who's 10 years old, a long stick is 5 feet long.
Yeah.
Not 12 feet long, not 50, 5 feet long. Dunked it in gas, lit the end, walked up to the balloon and poked it. And the last thing I remember was boom. Yeah. And then I felt this right in my chest, this concussive pow. I land on the ground, and my head hurts because I whacked it on the ground, and the windows were still rattling on the ground around the neighborhood.
Wow.
And I sat up and went, wow, that was so cool. And I got to do that again and again and again. Meanwhile, somebody in the neighborhood heard this windows rattling and thought, did a car explode? And they called the police.
Oh,
And
wow.
so within, I'd say 45 seconds, now my father was a very good friend of the chief of police.
Good thing.
So I wasn't going to get off easy if anything happened. Trust me. And so the cops roll by and they see me. Did you hear any noise? No, sir. Bouncing a basketball in my driveway. No, not at all. Okay. Not even noticing the black areas in the empty lot next to my house where I had put out the fires. So meanwhile, I had another balloon already growing on the still. And that just went on and on all summer. You know, the police kept getting called. No one ever found out it was me. Oh, until now. That's not a good idea. But the point was, this was science with a purpose. I had to learn about chemical reactions.
Right.
In fact, that was my first introduction to combustion. Okay. It was actually pretty good. Now, the hydrogen, pure hydrogen, doesn't burn. It needs to have oxygen. So that's why puncturing the balloon is so important.
Right.
Because you can't have, like, if you were to have a balloon and insert an igniter in there and just light it up red hot, okay? Well, let's say you get that igniter really, really hot. The hydrogen, the pure hydrogen, is not going to do anything. Only if you poke a hole and let oxygen in do you actually get that reaction. And I learned that at an early age. And so I asked my parents to buy me a chemistry set, which they did. And oh my gosh, back then it was a real chemistry set. It was Gilbert Scientific. It was a metal case.
Yep.
Had jars this big with chemicals.
With
Okay.
One of those, yep.
I still have those.
Man. Yeah.
You do.
I still have some of those jars here. Yeah, the gunpowder I made with my first chemistry set, I still have in a jar here. Gunpowder, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, blew a stump out with that stuff, actually.
Yeah. We don't have
So anyway, in other words, science is so important. And these days, I can't say that that's a great way to learn science, but I can say that science is so watered down these days in school curricula that people don't get a chance to actually do real science, real investigation. You know, they do these, I hate to say it this way, dumbed down, experiments.
All I did really was dissect a frog. That's
yes,
about it.
Remember that? Dissecting the frog was fantastic. You know, I was the only one in my biology class that could extract the brain of a pig.
Oh my God.
Yep, I did all these careful maneuvers and made these cut the flaps in the cranial sheath, and was able to extract the brain and clip out the brainstem and pull it out intact. I was the only one. Why? Because I read books.
That's right.
Because I read about this stuff and I read about the anatomy. So in other words, anything you do, you should endeavor to become the best at it that you can be.
Right.
Okay. And everybody has limits. Everybody has problems. Everybody has disabilities of some kind, learning or otherwise. Well, so do I. Okay. My parents took me to a psychiatrist when I was a kid. Well, I guess you can see why. But I was extremely precocious.
Yeah.
Now, can we back up just a second? Because your missing time incident at age 9. Did you ever have any dreams about what happened, or any dreams?
No.
Of being,
No, but you know what? I as I said, I did have this foreboding every time I went out for a period of time, and I got to go back to the space station plan, because the linchpin to becoming an astronomer rests with that plan. I knew I wanted to be an astronomer. I didn't know the first two things about it, really. I understood space. I love space. And reading gave me ideas to build this space station plan on notebook paper. I sent 15 or 20 sheets down to NASA. Said, space station plan. Please let me know what you think.
Nice.
You got an answer, didn't you?
Oh, I did.
Yes.
One of NASA's top scientists read my space station plan, and he spent what looked like 2 hours going through my plan, writing little notes like it was a test. Made a little check mark, and he wrote check marks the backwards way. I always wrote them one way. He wrote them backwards. It was like, so that was the weird thing. So everywhere I went, there was little check marks all over my comments, and he circled things and says, "Good idea. We use this now. We're planning on doing this." And for me on board the space station, I had pigs in little troughs and cows for milk. Okay, this is the level of my science at the time. And he says, "I think we have some better ideas for meat and milk." Now, we're not going to fly pigs in space. Hey, So anyway, as he writes all these comments, and then there was a letter included with my space station plan in return, and he wrote a big paragraph. It wasn't a short little, just pass this off. No, because what came back with my space station plan was a giant box. It was 24 inches long by 12 by 12. I measured. Okay.
Of course you did.
I got a magic marker from my mother, which I promptly gave back. I didn't use that one up. And I wrote space box on every single side of that box, every flap, every edge. That was my space box, my treasure. And it inside that box were mission patches from all the missions, brochures about current and future missions, books, model kits. It was packed to the brim with like a gift store shopping spree, from Kennedy Space Center, it seemed, So this scientist took the time, his own time, to go and get all this stuff and put it together. I guess for some reason he thought, this kid needs to be an astronomer.
Yeah.
Because in the letter he wrote,
amazing.
Yeah, in the letter he wrote, he writes, "You should stick with," and they called it the manned space program back then. "You should stick with the manned space program. I think you have a future."
What was his name?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Because at the time, okay, and he signed it, Bert Lee. That was the scientist. Now, you know him as Gentry Lee. He's the chief engineer for all outer space robotic missions at Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
He presided over all the missions. He presided over the New Horizons to Pluto, the Dawn mission to Vesta and Ceres. He presided over Perseverance, Curiosity. He was in the program for Vikings. Okay. He was over all these robotic missions. Okay. Perseverance, Curiosity, as I said. These are all missions under his purview. And that's the man that got me into the final linchpin that got me into astronomy, and I talked to him about 45 years after that letter he sent me. Okay. And I said, "Dear Mr. Lee, you may not remember me. I'm sure you don't remember me. I'm certain you don't remember me. But my name is Marc Dantonio. I sent you a space station plan when I was 10 years old, and you wrote all kinds of incredible comments. You wrote me a beautiful letter, and then you sent me a box full of incredible stuff from NASA. I was blown away. I just wanted to share with you that it's taken me 45 years to get back to you. However, I just want to let you know how much that meant to me, because I did become an astronomer. I did end up following through. I didn't join manned space program, okay, but I did become an astronomer, and now I do public outreach, okay. And what was funny was, not an hour passed, I got this big long email back from him. He's like, "Oh man," he goes, "I don't remember you. You're right." He goes, "But that is something I used to do." He says, "That's incredible. What a blast from the past. Wow. Thank you. Let's keep in touch." So, we have. And the thing that's funny is Gentry Lee was like a hero of mine, just like Carl Sagan was my favorite astronomer. And I just thought it was incredible. And so there's the story, long-winded as it was. That's why I became an astronomer, because I was stood on the shoulders of giants before me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, looking back in the past, I mean, do you suppose that was in fact a UFO experience that you had, the missing time?
I think that it was very strange. I've never been regressed. Kind of fearful, but I did have other events that I remember fully. Maybe I wasn't supposed to. But I remember having something shoved up in my sinus and had to be taken out surgically by doctors at Hartford Hospital.
What was
Okay. It was this thing this big that came out of my nose, this 2 thumbs stacked that came out of that little hole.
Yeah.
I felt, I always make the joke about Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall. He's like, "Get it out, pull it out." Yeah, he pulled this thing out, right? Well, I asked the surgeon when he took it out, because I was awake for it and I was there watching him do it, and I said, "Can I have that?" That was my first question, and he looked at me like I had 2 heads. Well, no, we have to send it to pathology. I said, "Well, can you have them check the inside and see if there's something inside of it, a foreign object?" And he looks at me and he goes, "You mean like a metal splinter that a machinist might get?" Yeah, that's right. He goes, "Yeah, I'll do that. Why?" And I told him about the terrifying 3 nights I had where I was awakened at 3:15 in the morning on 3 nights in a row. And the first night I woke up to this. What the heck?
Oh yeah, they're getting your attention. Yeah.
3 series of knocks, right? And that's like, what is that? So I went back to bed. It was 3:15 a.m. Next night, what the heck? Here it is again. And this time I get up and I'm looking over at the window. There's a faint window with a street light in the distance, and it just sort of frames the window with a little faint light. And at the time I had 2 greyhound dogs that I rescued from the track. I love rescues. And the 2 greyhounds were looking up at the source of this sound overhead, and it was like at the peak of the roof. Now it's a single family home. Yeah. So I'm thinking, is that some kind of weird, some woodpecker that is not all there, and he's trying to look for bugs in vinyl siding? I press my face against the screen to look up, and poof, I get this flash of white light in my face. The flash blinds me, and I just freeze. I don't yell. I don't say a word. I just freeze. And I'm blinking like this, and I'm looking out the window, and I see the street light come back first, and then the rest starts to bleed back slowly. I had to lean over the dogs because they both sleep under the window. All right. It was a beautiful August night, and the window was wide open. The screen was in there, though. And I let my vision come back enough so I could see where I was walking. I looked down, and the dogs were gone. Huh? I found Tycho, the male astronomer's dogs. Yeah. Tycho was hiding in the laundry in the closet, and Kepler was outside the room on all 4s, hunched down like this.
Yeah.
I'm narrowing her profile, make herself small. They never slept under that window again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So whatever it was, it scared them too. And that wasn't the event. The 3rd night, I woke up again. And this time I'm waking up and go, oh, here we go.
How old are you at this point?
This was only about like 27, 28 years ago.
Oh.
Maybe 24 years ago or so. And it was in the mid-90s. Okay, actually. So I was in the bed, and I woke up and I'm looking ahead like this and go, oh, here we go again. Now, I didn't hear any knocking. So I went to turn my head and I couldn't move my head. It was like, oh, what the heck? It won't go like this. I just can't. It's like it won't move. So anyway, I just go to move my eyes. So I go to turn my eyes this way. They're not moving. So I can't do that. My eyes are fixed. So I'm like, what is this? And then in my peripheral vision out here, I saw something pass in front of the frame of the window. Okay. And then it turns and it starts coming toward me in the bed. And it extended as what I could see out of only peripheral vision as like a hand. And it was like a gloved hand like this coming toward me. It was coming from this side. So it was like coming from this side. So it's coming in like this. It's going like this. It's going to put something up there. Okay. And as it's doing that, I can't do anything about it. And pow, it's morning and I couldn't breathe. It was over like that. And I'm sleeping exactly face down, arms at my sides, face down in a pillow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I had to pull my arms up, push off, and I couldn't breathe because it was a cavity where my face was, but I couldn't breathe because it was full of blood.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right. That's what I was going to ask you. Was there blood? Yeah.
Yeah. And it felt like I got smashed in the face really hard. And I did what anyone would do in a situation like that, where you have such a terrifying 3 nights. I promptly forgot about it, got up, got dressed, took a shower, and got dressed and went to work. Because isn't that what anybody would do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the point is, that event, from that point forward, I couldn't breathe out of this sinus. It was this one here. Okay. And when the doctor, I went to an ear, nose, and throat surgeon at Hartford Hospital in Connecticut. It's all public record, by the way. So none of this has to be taken for my word. Okay. You can always, this is all out there. And so he looked up there and he says, wow, he goes, you've got something huge up there. What? Yeah, you got something huge up there. And I knew that I couldn't breathe out of this sinus from the moment that this occurred. So clearly this was something different. So anyway, he says, I think we can get it out. And so he numbed the whole area and he got it out. And that's the thing that came out, the two thumbs thick. And when he asked me, why I asked to have the center of it checked, I said, well, you might not believe me, but, and I told him what I just told you. And he laughed. He goes, oh, I'm sure it's not aliens. I'm sure it isn't aliens. Oh, no, of course not. Not aliens. I said, he goes, so give me a call in a week and I'll let you know what the pathology report is. Oh, okay, thank you. So I leave. In a week, I call. Hey, it's Marc Dantonio. I'm just calling. Oh, hold on. Doctor has to talk to you. Oh, no. What is my head going to fall off? What happened? What's going on? What was that? He gets on. He goes, hey, Mr. Dantonio. Oh, I just want to let you know that it's probably benign. Okay, so nothing to worry about. Okay. I went, oh, so you haven't got the pathology report yet? And I hear crickets. And I go,
sorry,
Doc, what happened? Oh, and he goes, and he kind of sort of laughs nervously. And he said, I'll never forget this. He says, this has never happened in like 38 years of practice, but I sent it to pathology and they seem to have lost it. Okay, but it's benign. Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is. Okay, thanks a lot. And I let it go because I couldn't do anything about it. All right, no, it's not over. So 2 years later, I have to go back to him for something else. Okay, so I go back, and this time on the intake sheet, okay, I make little cartoons and jokes because the medical assistants that read it, and I entertain them because I know I'm only there for one thing. And then on my occupation, I put that I do special projects for the Navy, which I've done for decades now. In fact, I'm doing 6 submarine models right now in my shop over there, for a Navy DoD contractor. Okay, and so I put that on there. Special projects is sort of like buzzwords for people in the arena. And he comes in, all right, and I only did it because I was just being honest. I wasn't trying to elicit anything from him.
Right.
Elicit a response of any kind. So anyway, he comes in, he's looking, he goes, he's looking at the sheet. My medical assistants love you. He goes, that's funny. Special projects for the Navy, huh? I go, yeah, I've been doing that kind of work for decades now. And then he did something, as I've told others, I've never seen a doctor do, and I guarantee you haven't either. He sat up on the exam table next to me. Like, awkward? No.
I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. Awkward. So I kind of like, I think, okay. Well, anyway, he basically said, he goes, looking out the window like we're 2 kids on a mountain, on a cliff, looking over a lake at sunset or something.
Right.
He says, yes. He says, I just gave up my top secret clearance this year. And I didn't let on, but I now know everything that happened. And I said, what were you taking out top secret nasal polyps? And he laughs. Oh, he goes, no. And then he got really serious. He goes, I wasn't always a surgeon, Really? Yeah. And now, while sitting right next to me, he says, I was on a project in the Pacific where we shot a nuclear weapon up into space and took down an enemy satellite. I went, really? I knew the project. Okay, but I didn't say it to him. Yeah, he goes, it was a tremendous success. You know, I didn't know it was. That part I didn't know. I said, well, doesn't that violate all kinds of treaties and stuff? And he said, well, yeah. He says, but that's why we cleared the Pacific for 1,600 miles or 1,200 miles all the way around the atoll where we launched from. Hello. I went, oh, that makes it legal. All right. Well, anyway, now I know what happened. Because whenever you do this kind of work, whenever you're doing special projects like this, you know, where anything has some kind of classification, it's incumbent upon you as a classification holder to report anything that might be of interest to national security. So I know what happened. I could tell you how it went. He probably called to his person in Washington, D.C., and he was probably excited to be able to use it to say this, but he goes, and I'm sure it's how it went. Hey, hi there. This is Dr. So-and-so, Hartford Hospital. I have a patient that had reported that something strange happened. He had some kind of encounter where something put something in his nose. I did look at his sinus, and there was a finding, and it's in the pathology department here at Hartford Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut. Mm-hmm. Okay, doctor, what's your cage code? And he gave a cage code, which is like your social security number for that kind of work, right. You know. And I know mine. You never forget it. You know, like you never forget it.
Yeah.
And so they said, okay, well, thank you very much. And he went, okay, bye. Click. And that was it. So under polygraph, under cross-examination in a court of law, he can truly and honestly say, and it will be verified as truthful, that he has no idea who took it.
Right.
He has no idea where it went.
Right.
Okay. He might suspect where it went, like maybe in the basement of the National Institute of Health.
Yeah,
okay. To join all the others. Or not, I don't know. But that's the thing. Okay. So it went somewhere. Okay. And I'm sure that, and maybe they just inspected and said, ugh, this is just somebody's freaking medical waste. What the hell is this? You know, whatever. Or they found it's another example. You know, good thing Roger Lear's not alive. He would have been after this, you know, that kind of thing. So obviously, it was enough for them to report it, and it was enough for them to come get it. Maybe, you know.
Yeah.
I know similar stories.
Don't you though? It happens. It happens though.
Yeah. Watch this. See, this side goes in. I have
yeah, you have something up there too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's my second one. I took the first one out myself.
Did you?
Yep, with a shovel. And yeah, I'm a little weird, and like just like you, I do weird things. And
no, that's weird. Yep.
When the air hit
no, absolutely no self-surgery.
No, the air hit it. Unfortunately, it did a weird thing and it disintegrated. Okay, and I was told after that I would be getting another one and don't touch it. Well, I still have it. It's there. It's substantial, and I can ping it with my finger and go ding, 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 ding. You can hear me hitting it. Yeah. And
no demo required.
Yeah, I have another one in my hand
that
doctor had to scan. You know, I have issues, and they were scanning my hand for one of my issues. And the girl looked at me and she said, "Did you hurt your hand?" I went, "No." And she said, "Huh." And I'm saying, "Can I look at the screen?" And she said, "Well, what is that?" She pointed to it, and I looked at it. I have a crown of bone in there, and inside it is an object sitting in the bone. And she said, "How did it get there?" And I went,
"Can't tell you."
Yeah. And so she told the doctor, who saw me shortly after that, and he said, he said, "I'm just going to leave this alone, okay?" And I said, "Thank you."
Yeah, probably have to.
And
they usually do.
Yeah.
Well, you know, after this was taken out, one of the things that happened to me. I'm an astronomer, okay? This doesn't happen to me. I'm a science guy. Come on. What the heck? You know, stop hitting me with these things I can't explain. So after it was taken out, to this day, actually, not a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, it happened again. I'll be driving down the road, and all of a sudden I get this sharp burning pain up in here, right where it was. And I literally would gouge out my skull if I could to get at it. And at the same time that that's going off and really painful burn, okay, I hear a high-pitched whine in my head, like, and it won't stop until that noise goes away. And I have to pull over. I have to stop whatever I'm doing and just let it pass. I'm going like this the whole time to try and just like, it does nothing. But psychologically, it makes me feel better, I guess.
Yeah.
But and it's almost like a short circuit. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not the only one in my family that's had this. I've had nieces.
Be one of my questions. Yeah.
I've had nieces that reported little guys in their room that tried to pull the covers off, and you know, that was scary. And to this day, she was 5 when this happened to her. Now she's like almost 38, 39. Okay. And she still will not talk about it. It's terrifying. And, you know, and also other of my own kids have had a case where that was the case. And the funny thing is, when one of them said, I'm afraid the aliens are going to come through my window and take me again. Okay, that the word "again" makes your blood run cold for one thing, but
well, as a parent, yeah,
yeah. But through the window. And what's funny is, in later years, one of my most sought after lectures that people want to hear is the one on interdimensional travel. Now, interdimensional travel requires a look into some new physics that's coming our way, right? This isn't woo-woo stuff that's out there that can't be proven. This is stuff that's actually bordering on the edge. And the reason I bring it up is because that is how they could have, quote unquote, come through the window. They can't go through the window. They can't physically go through a block like that. They can't go through solids. Okay. But what they can do is they can leave one spot, go to another dimension, and then pop back in to a second spot. So they go from this X, Y, and Z coordinate at a particular time to this X, Y, Z coordinate at a slightly greater time. And now they're there.
This is exactly how Dolly describes it with her own experiences.
You know, it's funny. Okay, now this is, again, now I've worked with Avi Loeb from Harvard on television programs and other things together. We know each other. I know him. He knows me. All right. And he just came out and said that he now believes aliens travel interdimensionally.
Yes, they do.
He said they could travel interdimensionally. I think they do. Now, do I have science yet to back that up? We have tantalizing hints.
That's right.
That science supports it, yes. But do we have absolute proof? No.
No.
Well, this is what kept me out of the UFO field for decades, because I know how far away the stars are. There's no way you can get from one planet to another, star system, certainly the way we travel with propellants and so forth.
That's right. In fact,
we're pretty much stuck with that theory.
We are right now, because we have to travel within our 4 dimensions, our X, Y, Z, moving through time. Last dimension, it's always incrementing. Okay, so if we can get out and go to, say, a 5th dimension, okay, out here, where if you could enter that 5th dimension, the hypothesis, and this is actually a known string theory variation called Randall-Sundrum 1, RS1. And in that particular variant, the universe contracts around you. The farther into this 5th dimension you go, it's exponentially smaller the farther in you go. The farther in you go requires more energy to get there. Right. But if you could go in, say, let's just say you go in just a little bit, okay? And I can't define what a little bit is, but let's say you go in a little bit. Okay, out here you travel 12 inches, you go 12 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 12. Go in there, and then you travel 12 inches inside this 5th dimension. And when you come out, you didn't travel 12 inches inside, okay, only compared to your motion, you went 12 inches, but you're going over more space because it's compacted around you.
You got that.
So when you come out, it extends and expands to this huge expanse.
Right.
So that 12 inches could extend to like 10 feet by the time you come out.
You move for 12 seconds and you go clean across the universe.
Well, maybe so. Maybe so. Or maybe not the universe, but maybe Alpha Centauri. Now, using this method, I think it was a Stanford professor that calculated that instead of taking 10,000 plus years to get to Alpha Centauri, at the fastest possible speed, New Horizons. Okay, they went to Pluto. At that fastest possible speed, it would take 10,000 years still to get to Alpha Centauri, which is Preston's problem. Hey, that's good. PP, Preston's problem.
Well, there you go.
Okay, and that was the conundrum for years. How could they do it? Well, they could do it if they could not actually travel through space, if they could actually sidestep space and the speed of light limit that's in our 4 dimensions.
Right.
Okay, get away from that by going into this 5th dimension and then traveling a certain amount of distance effectively within that dimension and come back. You are going to appear or disappear from this location and reappear at this location, and you won't travel the intervening space between them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Even traveling the speed of light doesn't do it. You have to do it.
Exactly.
This show is
You're
called
right.
the Light Gate for a reason. Now, I've traveled with them, okay, and they create light gates, interdimensional light gates. And the science of it is intriguing as all get out. People here are starting to think about it. They're starting to like lay over into what that implies, okay? And I'm telling you, it's a light gate. They create a light gate because all dimensions are all on top of each other. You know, your dimensional space has all the dimensions in the same space. So they're gating between here and somewhere else.
Mhm.
And they vector and they coordinate and they use frequency to go where they're going through the light gate.
Well, I will say this, okay? I know that if they are, I call it punch out, punch in. If they punch out and punch into different XYZ coordinates,
Yes.
if they're doing that, that means that the science they have perfected, besides that technology, the science they've perfected is map making.
Yes. Yeah,
They're
exactly.
the best cartographers in the universe because they know that all the new entry points are free of any kind of obstacle.
Exactly.
Because you don't want to like try this in the middle of a dense nebula or cluster.
No, because you'll end up in the wrong damn
That
place.
might not
You
work
could-
out well.
Yeah. However, I know they can use it underwater.
Yes.
And the reason they can use it underwater is because they do it, and they do this generally anyway, but in the theory anyway, they oscillate back and forth between this 5th dimension and our 4 dimensions
That's right.
so rapidly that it's at a very, very high frequency. And this oscillation that occurs is so rapid that they're neither here nor
Nor
there.
Right. they
And
go
therefore,
like butter.
they can go down to the deepest spot in the ocean and just sit there.
No cluster, nothing. That's right.
And they're there, but they're not there.
Yeah.
They're kind of in the middle of, they're phased half out all the time.
Yeah.
So the pressure of the ocean doesn't affect them like it
Correct.
affected the Titan sub, for instance.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing you use the ocean for is to cool off because they are hot when they come in. Hot. Okay.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Well, they use the ocean to cool off, and they go through the ocean to be unseen by us. In other words, it's a great mode of transportation for them because they're moving about freely anywhere they want to go. They get to any continent or anything they want to do, staying here in our atmosphere, in our planetary space, and how they move. They don't base or anything anyway. They don't have to. When you can move like that, you don't need a bloody base.
No, I've been very clear about how I think they're doing things.
Yeah.
But we have to be really careful and make sure that we base all of the things that we say on at least a scintilla of some type of factual data. I mean, we don't have any science to tell us this, so the scintillas are very small, as you can imagine. Okay. But I will say that I was on board a nuclear submarine as a guest decades ago. I mean, you may have heard this story. I know people in the audience certainly probably have. And an unknown submerged object went through that sonar at several hundred miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I was seasick at the time because the submarines stay on the surface. I was never a sailor. I was only a guest.
Yeah.
Again, for the Navy work I do, and they rock and roll like sewer pipes with end caps under on the surface. And that's this. Okay, imagine this for about 4 hours. Okay, no, I just couldn't handle that. So I was trying to relax, so I sat next to the sonar guy, and he caught something on the sonar and called the XO over. And the way he announced it was I was trying to just get my stomach back, and as I was literally it's very loud in the sub because there's noise everywhere, but the sound never gets out, obviously. So that was like white noise to me, and I was sort of letting my stomach calm down from it. And out of nowhere, I hear him say, con sonar, fast mover, fast mover. I was like, what?
You were thinking torpedo.
Right? I was. I thought, I'm going to die. Why did I agree to go on this trip? Why? And the executive officer comes sauntering around the corner from the control station, which is right behind us. And he's like, what do you got? And I'm like, a little more speed. Okay, it's torpedo. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Okay. And the guy and the kid is facing away from me, and the XO is looking down. Okay. So the XO is looking down toward me. The kid's facing away from me because there was 4 stations, and I was at the second. The first one was here where he was.
Wow.
And the kid gave a bearing in the range, a distance or range, angle off the boat and the distance away. And then the XO said, well, how fast is that moving? I didn't hear the bearing in the range. And then the kid did a calculation or whatever, and he turns sideways in the seats that don't move, and he put his hands out like this. And he yelled, several hundred knots, sir. And the guy, just matter of fact, okay, log it and dog it. And the kid went, sir, yes, sir. And he went back to work.
Oh, and I'm big one the logs then. That's interesting.
He said log it and dog it, yeah. That's what the phrase he said. Now, I'm a guest. I'm a VIP. You got that, folks? I'm a VIP. You can see where this is going. Yeah. So I get up and I go over to the XO and I say, excuse me, sir. Yes, it's me, the guy who's the VIP in the boat. I know about these fast movers, they called it. I said, is there anything I can help you with? And he goes, Dantonio, right? Sir, yes, sir. You having a good trip so far? Sir, yes, sir. Let's keep it that way. and he walks away. All right. And I'm like, okay, I'll just go sit over here. I sat back down at that station number 2, like, seasickness? What seasickness? That's gone. Adrenaline does wonders.
There's wonders for seasickness.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you share the name of the sub?
Yeah.
No, I can't actually. And I can't even say what was going on out there, but I can say that this was decades ago. And the thing is, I've talked since then to other submariners, and they said, "Oh, on our boat, they're all called boats, not ships. On our boat, they were called jellyfish. Wow. We called them jellyfish because we didn't have another place to put them. It's like, wow." And it turns out Russians have seen them, Chinese have seen them, Aussies have seen them, other navies have seen them.
Yeah. I've talked to a few submariners. This is not uncommon.
No, it's not uncommon. So get this. 2 years later, okay, now they called it a fast mover on this boat. That never left my head. 2 years later, I had to do a job for the Joint Chiefs. Okay, I was doing this big model. It was a presidential briefing model. Ooh, so I was nervous, doing this. I had to drive it to Washington because of its classification. I couldn't stop to go to the bathroom. I had to drive 6 hours from Connecticut without stopping. That's a real trick. Okay.
That's a lot.
So I drove down to this particular Pentagon meeting, offloaded it at this location that was classified, and asked to use the bathroom. And they said, "Yeah, okay." After we examine the package, oh, don't make me wait, So another 20 minutes later, they said, "Okay, you can go to the bathroom." And I went into the bathroom, and first thing I noticed was there's cameras in the bathroom. Okay. Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes.
And they're not like right in front of you, okay, but they're back there. And when I went out, I went, I waved at the camera, and I went back to the desk, and the lady said, "You shouldn't wave at the camera." Ooh, she saw that, So apparently they watched people because
move you make.
Well, spies use the bathrooms for cover.
Yep.
They'll drop stuff in toilet tanks. I actually caught one doing that at Electric Boat. Okay, I heard him remove the cover. Oh my God. And it turned out that it was a Chinese spy dropping a DVD in the toilet tank. And it doesn't matter. The DVD's not going to get hurt. But it was a dead drop zone. Well, anyway. So when I delivered the model, I was talking to one of the Joint Chiefs. I actually sat with him privately, and they said, in my head's saying to me, "Don't say it. Don't be an idiot. Don't spoil this. Don't be a jerk. Nix ixnay on the saying, say." Okay. And before I could finish saying that in my mind, the words were already coming out. What can you tell me about the Fast Mover program?
Oh, God.
And I literally said that and went like this. Boom. Okay, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Bite your tongue? Oh, my God.
And he kind of smirked and he goes, "I'm sorry, Mark, I can't talk about that program." I went, "It's okay." And I drove back from Washington like, it's all real. Holy, it's a revelation was complete. It's all real. You know?
Yeah.
So much
not
yeah.
told the public.
Yeah. Shades of Star Wars. When I left you, I was but the Luna, but now I am the master. You know, I mean, it was like, wow, by saying nothing, he said everything. Right. So clearly this stuff is happening. Clearly it's out there. And clearly they're here. Now the question that you were facing, Preston, for years, how could they be here at such vast distances between the stars? Well, now we know. There is a methodology. Now, this interdimensional shifting methodology, and you might find this interesting too, Dolly. This interdimensional methodology actually means that your ship does not need engines.
Correct.
Okay. Now, there's more.
Exactly what.
There's more.
That's what I said.
In there.
Right.
There's more, because the question also, Dolly, I should put to both of you. Okay. And this relates to how they actually work. When someone approaches or touches a UFO, what are some of the reported things that they say?
Radiation burns.
Radiation burns.
Yes.
Preston? Anything? It's still your turn. No, I'm just kidding. no, but that's good enough. Okay. Yes.
There's another one. They get electrocuted.
What's that?
Electrocution.
Yeah. They get electrical charges.
Being able to touch it.
Yes. Right. Repelled away. Yes, that's exactly.
True. Yeah.
Okay.
Force fields, kind of.
Yeah. So, also note the shape. What shape are they generally?
Disc shaped.
Okay. I know why. They're particle accelerators.
Thank you.
They accelerate protons to very high speed, and they give off certain particles that these particles are called Kaluza-Klein particles. Now, Kaluza-Klein particles were theorized back in the 1920s and earlier, but never discovered until CERN installed on the Large Hadron Collider, installed a detector called ATLAS. Okay. And one of the many charges of ATLAS was to look for Kaluza-Klein particles. Why? Because they're very interesting. Kaluza-Klein particles are also the progenitor of the Kaluza-Klein graviton. Now,
thank you.
This goes, why do you keep thanking me?
No, this is what I say it is. It's a graviton.
Okay,
I
so
stated that clearly. Yes.
The thing that's interesting is when you look at how gravitons theoretically operate. We've never found a single graviton, not an Earth graviton, not a graviton from anywhere else. However, if you look at all the fundamental forces in physics, we have the strong force, the weak force, the electromagnetic force, which is light, and we have gravity. Those first three, those act well within our standard model. They act properly. They do what they expect of baryonic matter. Okay, right. You know, ordinary atoms. And gravity is that weirdo. You get pull this off. You know, it's doing weird things. It doesn't fit the standard model, which gives rise to new thoughts about gravity, new thoughts about potential sources of gravity. But it also gives rise to the thought that maybe we're looking at gravity not being fully in our 4 dimensions.
Correct. Yes.
Maybe. Well, thank you. Maybe gravity actually lives partially in this 5th dimension.
Yeah.
And Kaluza-Klein gravitons come from this 5th dimension. So if we can generate Kaluza-Klein gravitons in our 4th dimension and surround our ship with them, guess what? We're pulled into the 5th dimension because that's where they live, and they're encasing our ship. And they're going home.
Right.
So if they go into the fifth dimension, depending on the net number that you keep around your ship, because I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it in a minute, all right, depending on the net number, you'll go further in, the more energy you provide, and that means you can travel further distances. So civilization that's just getting into this technology might be able to go from here to Pluto in 25 minutes instead of 15 years or 10 years it took us. Okay. And that'll be a huge milestone. Even if it took 3 hours, it'd be a huge milestone. Barely getting into the fifth dimension at all would accomplish that. All right. However, that fifth dimension is a very interesting dimension, because if we look at how the UFO, which is round, generates these particles, these Kaluza-Klein gravitons, are theorized to be 10 to the 16th times more powerful than the Earth gravitons holding us to our chairs right now.
Right.
I'll watch it start floating away. Okay. Right. So these Earth gravitons then are overwhelmed by the Kaluza-Klein gravitons. And if you surround your ship with the Kaluza-Klein gravitons, all right, one of the offshoots, one of the things that's an ancillary creation of creating such a huge gravitationally powerful particle is you get micro black holes. Micro black holes are theorized to exist. Okay. Yeah. And these micro black holes would do a few things. If you were staring at a UFO that was surrounding its ship with these Kaluza-Klein gravitons,
you wouldn't be able to see it.
Well, several things would happen, actually.
Light around it. Right.
First of all, these micro black holes actually live for only a few nanoseconds. Okay. Every black hole evaporates. So over time, even like the Sagittarius A black hole is evaporating. Even the Virgo cluster M87 black hole, center of the Messier 87, is evaporating, although it's slow. Okay, so the smaller they are, the quicker they evaporate. So a tiny micro black hole will evaporate in a few nanoseconds, if not less. That said, if they evaporate before they go, maybe they suck in a little bit of the light, yes, couple molecules of air, okay, and then you keep generating them. So you're keeping a net amount around your ship. The more powerful system you have, the more you can make, the farther into the fifth dimension you can go. Right. That comes with your technology gain. Okay, so I'm in my 4 dimensions, and I'm watching a UFO that is now transiting into the fifth dimension. What do I see? Well, I see it might shimmer and change colors. Okay. I'm seeing that it might actually appear to just disappear from here and appear over here. Disappear from here and appear over there.
We see in UFO reports all the time.
Yeah. And the shimmering and color change. Or it might look like it's fading out and fading in to view, like at the limit of visibility. Now, I can say that things changing color, okay, we can call that atmospheric scintillation. That is a well-known scientific process that occurs with point-like objects in the sky, like a star on the horizon. More air disturbs that singular point-like object's light coming in, so it might change the colors magnificently, rather. Okay, and so it could be that. And when you look at something moving in the sky and it seems to go from here to there, to there, to there, well, that could be the autokinetic effect, which is something that is based on our evolution. Our eyes were never developed to follow objects in a blank sky. They were developed to look for threats in the cave, a predator in the bushes.
Yeah, but those are still minute movements, because people are describing things going all the way.
I know.
Well, yeah, that's right. And in fact, I can tell you at arm's length, okay, if you have a distance of like my fingers across like that, that's about the size of the autokinetic motion that I've seen people respond to in the sky. And I took pictures, right? And the photograph I took showed a dashed line of an object crossing the sky, a rotating satellite body, just tumbling. And you see a dash of light, then it goes away, then a dash of light, and it goes away on the image.
Right.
What they think they're seeing is this and this and this and this, because their eyes are always dancing around.
Yeah.
They're never good at finding, that one spot again.
Because
we didn't evolve to.
Limited. That's right. We have limited optics.
Yes. So anyway,
physical optics.
So could it be based on that? Oh, sure. Or we could be seeing Kaluza-Klein gravitons in play.
Yeah. Think
You
about
know?
this also. I want you to think about this also. That craft is able to use that arraying like a cuttlefish, and they can show you anything they want you to see. It is intelligent enough. The craft itself is intelligent enough. I'm telling you this. This is how it flies. To cuttlefish you. It can mimic backgrounds. It can blank out completely so you can't see it at all. Okay, it just depends on the level of power that it's using, because they use graviton emitters, and they can move them around, and they can point them in any direction that they want, and they create this wave, and they create more than one wave. They have an inner wave and an outer wave. The outer wave is working on what you see. The inner wave is working on anti-grav and protecting them at the same time. Because you're in the fifth dimension in this thing, you don't feel the physics of our gravity at all, or earth pull, or anything, and it is literally working that way. On the inside, it also uses this technology, like it's called light technology to them, where they can light the entire inside of that thing without having a light bulb. They array everything, literally array it, and that's extremely advanced technology.
No, I have no doubt it's advanced. And like when people say, no creature could survive these large movements, so they can't possibly be using that. And I'm like, guess what? They don't feel anything. They're just, see, you know what it is? They're not moving in straight lines. They're moving in discrete dots. They're punching out and then punching in slightly further ahead of where they just were. So they go ding, 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 ding. And to our instrumentation and to our eyes, they're just going, whoop. Look, I kicked her out. I don't know how that happened.
Well, I've experienced that personally, so I know, from a firsthand experiential basis.
Yeah. I guess Dolly decided to head out. Where'd you go?
She blinked out. I'm sure she'll blink right back in.
Oh, she's okay. So don't be going to no fifth dimension on me here. Okay?
My cat had to go out. You don't deny the cat box ever.
Yeah. Okay. So bottom line is that I said the only thing that changes, and this is one thing I said at Contact in the Desert. I did this lecture there. It was very successful. People really liked it. And the one thing I said was, all that changes for them is the scenery outside their window, theoretically. They don't feel anything because they're just popping into a new X, Y, and Z coordinate. There's no perception of motion because there is no motion. Right. They're just popping into a fifth dimension. Okay, and then popping in, they pop into a fifth dimension, and then they pop back, and they pop back at the new entry point that's slightly like a foot or 2 feet or 3 feet ahead of where they just were. And all of our instruments see that as a line of motion. Our sonars detect that as the pop, 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 pop is blurred into one sound. So we see it only as like a sound on a sonar. So they're not invisible to us. And the only thing that stands between us and them is this technology. And as soon as we can figure out how to do this, which I think we could do in less than 75 years, okay, and I'll tell you how in a moment, then I think that they will end up having to change their approach with us. Either that or open themselves to us. Say, hey, we're here. Now that you can see me, here I am. Okay. So one of the things that I think they need to do in order to do this process is have the energy to create this constant ring of particles, all right, to move around and create these particles.
Right. You got the right idea. You're going for it, right? You realize the amount of energy they have to use to do that, right?
Of course they do.
Yeah.
And I think that JSCO, he's one of my guys. The thing that's interesting is that to see the energy they need to use, we need to go out to Lawrence Livermore in San Francisco. Because out in San Francisco, where my first observatory, SkyTour West, is in the Sonoran, and SkyTour West 2 is in Benson, Arizona, but SkyTour West Sonoran is on the property of a Lawrence Livermore nuclear physicist. And, Lawrence Livermore is doing research on fusion. And they just, now listen to this, if you dare. Okay. in recent year or so, they announced some really interesting milestones. They were able to create a sustained fusion reaction for the first time. They were able to take, a pellet of fuel and bang, fuse it. Hey, we did fusion. We were able to do the thing once. Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, okay, they've reached where they can go boom, 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 and do it many times in a row. All right. And in fact, they just announced recently that they had it going for some number of seconds, or 1.5 seconds or something. But that's an eternity at millions of degrees.
What you're talking about is in the public arena.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they have stuff going on in the not
what
public
you need to
arena.
do is have, you're exactly right. It's a chamber that elongated fusion happens. In other words, you're using 100% of the fuel. Okay. We don't use 100% of our fusion fuel at all. Okay. There's always waste from it. We're not encompassing or using the entire process to go through the pop.
Well, here's the actual problem that we have, Dolly, with fusion. Okay. In order to fuse hydrogen, and we're not ever dealing with atoms, we're dealing with the nuclei.
Right.
A hydrogen proton.
Right.
In order to make that fuse with another hydrogen proton effectively and make a helium proton effectively. There's a bunch of isotopes in there. There's a whole process. Okay, never mind. But in order to get to that, we need to have an awful lot of energy. And most importantly, when I say energy, I mean temperature and pressure. We have to actually have a lot. You're welcome. Why do you keep saying?
I'm proud that you know this shit. Okay, right.
So, and then, so you have to have 15 million degrees Celsius initially to take and start hydrogen fusion. To do helium fusion beyond that, you've got to go all the way to 100 million Celsius. So there's nothing on Earth that can handle 15 million Celsius. Okay. So what they've done is they've encompassed these fuels in a magnetic chamber where they're kind of suspended, and they were able to do this in the middle of this chamber. So when we get fusion, it's going to be a cycled reaction of some kind where they're going to do it and stop, do it and stop, do it and stop, just to allow the hardware to catch up and allow some type of cooling process to take over. But let me explain the difference between fission and fusion. Right. Fission is Fukushima. Fission is Chernobyl. Fission is 3 Mile Island. Okay. Right. Fission is what we do everywhere. It's what the French do. It's what America does. Okay. It's what the Russians do. So now, fission is the process of taking fuel that's rampantly moving out from these fuel rods and metering it with these graphite rods you can put up and down in there to slow the reaction down or start them up again. Okay. Yeah. Now that process is dangerous, especially if you can't move these control rods all the way down in your reactor and do what's called a scram, where you shut it down.
Right.
Okay. So if you pull them all out and you can't get them back in, this is going to run so hot, it's going to melt this down. And of course, you get that famous meltdown process. Okay. Well, in order to put those control rods in, I liken this to being a deep valley, and the reaction's down here at the bottom. And in order to make this reaction stop, you got to add energy to put these control rods in and push that reaction out of the valley. So you have to push it uphill by pushing these rods down, and you're actually got to add energy to the system, okay, to get it to stop. Fusion is the opposite. Right. Fusion's a reaction teetering on the brink of literally just shutting down. So as long as you can hold it in a balanced condition, then fusion will continue and happily. But stop providing the fuel, stop providing the containment, and whoop, it falls off the mountain, and it doesn't melt down. It just shuts off. Right. So fusion is far safer. And let's look at the fuels used for fusion. One of them is tritium. Tritium in a powdered form, you could rub on your hands, rub on your arms, take a bath in it. Okay, maybe not that much, but inhale it even. And it doesn't stay with you like plutonium, which, a fraction of a gram can kill thousands of people. Yeah. Okay, that's how bad it is. But tritium, one of the radioactive fuels for fusion, is not cumulative. It gets excreted as waste, like urine. You pee it out, and it doesn't accumulate in your tissues, so it's safer. So fusion is safer on all counts. Fusion is easier to manage environmentally than fission. Fission, where do you put the spent fuel rods? You bury them in a mountain in Colorado somewhere. Okay.
Yeah.
Bring them to Los Angeles. I don't know. I mean, it's, what else? So there's a problem with fission, right? So fusion, on the other hand, is safer. So going to Lawrence Livermore, we find that they're doing fusion research, and fusion is coming along slowly but surely. It's only 10 years away. That's all we ever hear. Okay. But now let's go across to CERN and look at the fact that they're generating the Kaluza-Klein particles, and they're starting to research, these KK particles. Okay. So they're discovering the KK particles and all their amazing capabilities. And Lawrence Livermore over here is discovering fusion. Well, as it turns out, what do you need to create a particle stream like we're talking about for your unidentified object? Is a fusion reactor. So as soon as we have a fusion power source, then we'll effectively have a reaction that will at some point be maintainable with other controls that we can develop. And I would say a civilization that's only 1,000 years ahead of us will have perfected this. They don't even have to be 1,000,000 years ahead of us, or it can just be 1,000 years, maybe 500 years ahead of us to have this technology already matured. So there's some pretty cool stuff there, which is really interesting. So the fusion process, marry these two together, fusion with the CERN findings with KK particles, and we're ready to go interstellar, guys. I mean, this might actually be the key linchpin to getting off our rock. See?
Yes, absolutely. I understand. I do.
Come on, you're supposed to thank me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
It's going to be interesting. I'm just going to be honest with you, dead up. One of the things I was taught was that electricity is the power that you're looking for, but it's not just megawatts; it's way higher than that, and it's the power source is the fusion to generate that much electricity to create what you're talking about.
You are going to generate. I mean, keep this in mind. Okay, in a fusion reactor, okay, let's go to particle accelerator. Okay, in a particle accelerator, particle accelerators charged particles are generating lots of electricity as they go around because they're positively charged protons that you're racing around and trying to accelerate close to the speed of light. So when you do that, you're making them go in a circle. And I didn't mention kind of purposely how we make them go in a circle. Okay. But we make them go in a circle with powerful magnetic fields that skew them around the corners. The perpetual they always have corners, and that they're going around, not corners, but curves. And so these particles moving around and around and around, these particles, because they're charged particles forced to constrain to a curved path, they generate synchrotron radiation radially out. Yep. So this is why people get radiation burns when they touch UFOs. They're getting synchrotron radiation burns. Yeah. Okay, this is why they feel lightheaded and woozy, because they're getting radiation poisoning.
Sick to your stomach. That's right.
Yep. But inside the UFO, inside the center, they are shielded inside there because over time they've learned how to make a proper shielding. Yeah. And when the UFO comes to rest, or it's transitioning between that fifth dimension and our dimension, there's a point where they're vulnerable. And so that vulnerability is when we could shoot them down, for instance, if we wanted to, So, and when they shut off to land and get out, then the case is set where they get out in the UFO and they travel around and do stuff. Well, at that point, they're safe because they're not generating particles to go into the fifth dimension at that point.
Yeah. Have you seen many? The governments have. They've got crashed UFOs. You know this, right?
I suspect it's probably true. Yeah.
Well, one of the model. It is the model. They all are modeled the same way on the inside. It's not just circulating. It goes up through it's like almost like an infinity. They have a central stack, and it's both ways. Okay. And it runs through and then it runs back around the outside and then back around it. In other words, it does 2 figure eights in the craft. It's constantly moving around like this. Okay. That's their field. They create the field and they move the graviton emitters. You know, you can talk to Lazar about this. I'm not joking around. You should know this. To move the power on the inside where they need it, and then the power on the outside, okay, where they need it to go. And yes, they are protected because it creates a field so strong on the inside. It's not a metallic or, you know, like you would think of insulation. It actually becomes its own environment. It changes the environment.
Would this be why so many people describe a central column?
Yes, there's a
UFO?
central column in it, and the energy goes, literally, it starts in the basement of it, and it goes up through the top, around the sides, and then it goes back around like that in a figure eight, and it's constantly moving around. And
But there's no actual engines as we would think of.
No, and they do.
There's no engines required.
No.
All they do is pop out and pop in to a different XYZ coordinate. So they don't need engines. They don't need thrusters. By the way, by literally negating the Earth's gravitons and preventing them from reaching their ship,
right.
This also explains why we have observations of UFOs sometimes looking like fluttering leaves.
Yep.
Okay, because there is no reason for them to have any up or down. And so they are preventing Earth gravitons from reaching them. So they're effectively just lazily floating through space. It just happens to be the Earth's in the way.
Yeah.
See? And, you know, so I don't know enough about the internal layout of UFOs. Nobody does really. But I mean, I hear that we know. Yeah, I hear speculation about it all the time. And what you say may be true. I don't know. Okay. But I do know that from the outside, there has to be a net number of these micro black holes created by KK gravitons to take them into this fifth dimension.
Yep.
But the mechanics of moving to the fifth dimension are automatic based on the fact that these gravitons live there. That's what I say live there. They're not alive, but I mean, they're from there. They're fifth dimension. Now, this goes back to the gravity thing I was talking about.
Yeah.
Gravity is that one fundamental force that doesn't make any sense. We can calculate its value. Its value is F equals GMM over R squared.
Right.
Okay, G is the gravitational constant. M and M are the two masses of the two objects you want to calculate the gravity between, and the radius squared is the radius between them. Centers, it's from their centers. Okay, so we can calculate that, and just being able to calculate that force has gotten us outside the solar system very accurately.
Right.
Got to Mars within 10 feet of our landing spots. Took us by Pluto exactly where we wanted to go, and allowed us to course correct to go to Ultima Thule, the Kuiper Belt object. That's the double pancake. That's the binary object. Okay, so obviously, just being able to calculate the force of gravity has been tremendously helpful to us.
Right.
Yet, we don't know how to actually bend gravity. We don't know how to reflect it. We don't know how to refract it. We don't know how to do anything other than calculate its value. The fact that, you know, here I am in my office right here, and here's my mouse, and I drop it and it falls.
Yeah.
I've got all this earth between me. I got my chair, I got my floor. Okay. Yet gravity permeates all this. So you have to say this force is incredible for what it does, because there's nothing I can do to make this thing go that way. There's nothing I can apply to it. Not any other
telekinetic ability. People.
Well, there's that.
About levitation. These things do happen.
And now, see, okay, let's take that. But let me get back to the levitation in a sec. So the gravity then, obviously we can calculate its force, but we can't do anything else with it. So if we understand the fundamental nature of gravity, and we think of it in terms of string theory, okay, think of string theory like this. Here's a hydrogen proton. Why am I doing that? It's always moving. It's vibrating. So stop it here, okay, at one end of its travel. Stop it here at the other end of its travel. What's that path in between? Think of that as the string.
Right. Yeah.
Don't think of particles anymore. Think of strings. Okay. And now if you look, when you start to think about strings, then you get more things opening to you. And that's where this Randall syndrome 1, RS1 variant of string theory comes from, and allows you now to see that this is basically energy manipulation. Okay, energy manipulation at the micro level,
Right.
to have macro effect.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. And so I think that when we talk about that, let's consider what you said about levitation, Preston. What's levitation? Well, isn't that what the UFO is doing when it's negating the Earth gravity?
Right.
Exactly. Creating
So-
another field that basically counteracts it.
And okay, now let's put that in English. Okay, it's creating particles that suck up the Earth gravitons and prevent Earth gravity from reaching it. That's what the UFO is doing. So if this was to levitate, it would have to create particles around it, the field as you called it, and if it ate enough of the Earth gravitons, then this would not fall when I let go of it. It would just sort of float here. Okay.
On the water. Correct.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. So all of these processes we talk about, telekinetic powers, the ability to move something. Well, if you can negate gravity from something and then apply another force that we have yet to understand to it, well, that's called telekinesis to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. If you can take an object and harness the gravitational particles around it, then maybe you can put more on one side than the other and cause it to move in one direction or the other.
Which is exactly what some whistleblowers have said.
Yes. And
bioelectric activity is
move
what
up.
it is.
Yeah. Well, see, that's another thing. See, this just goes, how much time do we have? It goes on. It goes on and on. It goes on and on, right? Because now you could say, well, if these creatures are not just alien creatures piloting a ship, but they're integral to the ship, and that their electrical energy that they have in their bodies is integral to how the ship works. And I could foresee that being true, because what if they're biological robots? Okay. They might be able to handle far higher currents and we'll call it amperage, okay, just for fun. Far higher electrical charges than we're used to, and therefore they might be.
Dolly's smiling. She knows about this. Yeah,
I do. They
She's
do.
told me about this.
Yeah, they have AI that's bioengineered. It's bioengineered AI, and they can handle what they call the rough work, because when they're in our solar system, okay, and they've slowed down, they use a different power source. They go to batteries when they're inside our solar system, and they come through, because sometimes they'll fly around the planet. They'll stay in our magnetosphere, okay, but it's not safe for human beings to take that kind of gamma radiation and stuff like that. Okay, it'll even go through them. It doesn't repel it. It lets it. Gamma goes through everything. Okay, so they have these biologically engineered AI that do all the grunt work for them and the stuff. They also have the ability to what you would consider Faraday, but it goes way beyond that. A pilot who's actually a biological person. Okay, and they have to be grounded properly inside the craft to fly. And they use something that most people here don't want to admit exists, and that's they use their abilities, their psychic abilities. They are psychically advanced. They have the ability to use their brain and their higher consciousness and all of that. They can transmit signals. They hear each other. They don't need to communicate by mouth. It's all psychic. The craft hears them, understands what they're doing. The AI do as well. And one of the things that I can tell you that's happening on this planet is they're learning to communicate psychically through engineered technology. Okay.
This is why it's going to be so hard to reverse engineer this stuff.
No.
Well, actually,
to learn this.
Well,
Yes.
One of the things that's interesting is that part of the reason we're so interesting, I think, to creatures that may be visiting us, and I say that just for the percentage of people that don't think it's at all possible, because I still think it is very much so, is that if they're bioengineered, then they are going to have to necessarily be completely engineered in order to operate their spacecraft. Okay, if they're physical craft, right? And if they're going to do that, it means that their minds are going to be linked to the craft, as you said. It's interesting because right now the military is doing this with jet aircraft, with fighter aircraft.
Exactly.
Okay, and it's also interesting because one of the things that is important to understand is that we all do it and don't even realize it's happening.
That's right.
Perfect example. I was speaking at Ozark in Arkansas at the conference. There were about 750 people in the audience. And then when I walked out on the stage, I said, before I started, I said, excuse me, I just want to say one thing. How many of you have thought of a friend you haven't heard from in 10 years and the phone rings and every hand went up? And then, of course, everybody laughed.
Yeah.
And I said, science wants you to believe that's a coincidence.
No.
And everybody just broke down and was laughing. So that was how I opened that talk. And I wasn't even talking about that. It was something about UFOs. But I said, this kind of shows you the status and level of our science understanding right now. Today's paranormal could be tomorrow's science. And we have to be open to that, So when you're 100%. Saying things that are right now unprovable, I'm not sitting here going, you're full of it. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying, well, could be, remains to be seen. I won't negate it. I won't discount it at all. I will just say, well, we're going to have to add that to the list of tests.
Well, the paranormal is a misnomer.
Wait, I'm going to give you something
that's
right. That's absolutely proven, and it's in use, actually. You have when they put an EEG on you, they hear your brain waves, alpha, beta, theta, gamma, delta. They now know how to translate that information into a system where people who have immobility issues, they need to use their eyes or they use their mind and they think it through. It translates what they're thinking into a computer, and the computer says or does what they want it to do. Or moving arms and legs, all electrical, impulses, but it's reading what your brain is thinking. They now know that they can communicate with it, and that it is somewhat used now already in communications, long distance communications, by transmission. It is used. They have done it.
Well, I thought that was something I was going to have to do. I mean, you may or may not know. Maybe you've heard it. 10 years ago, I had a surgery that went wrong. Okay. And I won't bore you with the whole story. Just understand that after I woke up out of the coma, in which I was wide awake, by the way, during the whole coma, and they never thought I was.
Yeah.
I was profoundly blind, and I was a quadriplegic. So while I was in the coma, I was working on a circuit that was going to allow, and it in my understanding level was, if I can somehow communicate the interface to the surgeons, I'll be able to connect with some machine,
right,
to be able to connect with and communicate. I wasn't terrified in any way because I actually knew that I was going to survive it and be fine. But I ended up actually fixing my brain, and I figured out how to reprogram neurons in the brain.
Yeah.
And the surgeon who operated on me wrote me this big long letter saying, I can't believe I totally understand that this is something everybody can do. They just don't realize it. And sometimes they never heal because they don't know they can fix themselves.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah. I was nominated for a TED Talk on this, but I didn't. I haven't done it yet because maybe it's COVID or whatever. The backup from COVID a few years has kind of push that schedule around. So I'm waiting to hear from them. So hopefully they'll go through with that.
I want to pop up a few questions from chat because we're running out of time quick.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to shut up now.
No, please don't. We absolutely love what you're saying. This question is from Rocco. He's saying, have you seen anything strange through your telescope, Mark?
Yeah, Rocco, we have. We've actually caught a few odd things. And one of the things that I caught was a strange object moving circularly in the sky, very, very high altitude. Now, I couldn't gauge the high altitude, but I based it on the brightness of the object. It was moving in a shape like this in the sky. It went in a perfect circle.
Yeah.
Okay, and it took 48 seconds to do that complete perfect circle in the sky. It wasn't tiny. It was probably maybe half a degree of size, maybe less than that, actually, 1/10 of a degree in size in the sky, and it went in a perfect circle in the sky. And I couldn't figure out what that was. Another one that happened was I caught this bright object moving across the sky, and as it reached the center point, it's something like that. I have all this stuff on video. This is not hidden. It's on my Facebook site. I put this stuff up there. Now, and when you look at the telescope proper, Rockwell, one of the things that we see, I have two. I have a wide field system that we broadcast with, and I have a narrow field system that we broadcast with. The wide field system sees things more than the narrow field, because the narrow field is smaller. It's like trying to take a straw, look through a straw, and find a cork in a bathtub that's floating. You could look for hours and never find it. Okay, I use that analogy when talking about trying to find MH370 aircraft that got lost. It's like trying to use look through a drinking straw and find a cork in a bathtub. It could be hours and hours before you happen across it. So, because exactly right, Preston, because of the ocean. So that said, I would say that those objects that we caught in the wide field were really interesting. Now we see lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of satellites coming through, especially with the Starlink satellites. You know, Starlink is a curse, but Starlink is also a blessing, because both of our observatories run on Starlink right now. And one telescope system is actually fully green. We have these big solar panels that my friend from Lawrence Livermore has on his property and that I'm utilizing for electricity. The other one is actually a regular electrical system that we have, because we're on a mountain with a bunch of other professional astronomers. So it's in Benson, and that's actually something that's more standard. But both run on Starlink now. So it's a blessing, it's a curse. So we see these things. Yeah, we see them go through the field a lot. Yeah, but I did find those other two objects very interesting. We caught a Chinese rocket re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, which is cool. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pop out. I've only got a few questions, but here's one from Evan. This is interesting because we had, of course, the Hubble telescope and recently the James Webb.
Now Vera Rubin.
He's asking, Evan is, as an astronomer, are you excited about the Rubin telescope? And he's bringing up Planet 9 in Nibiru, so I'd be interested in your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, sure. I actually applied to be the outreach astronomer for the Vera Rubin telescope, but they wanted somebody different. Maybe, I'm in Connecticut. They want someone in Tucson. Maybe that was part of the problem. I don't know. Maybe it was my qualifications weren't exactly what they're looking for. I don't know. But the Vera Rubin telescope is fantastic, phenomenal. It shows the vistas of the universe unlike any we've ever seen. And it's the biggest digital camera on Earth. You can't beat it, Now, can they use that to search for a planet? I'm going to say planet 10 because I knew Clyde Tombaugh, who found Pluto, and I still believe Pluto's a planet. So there.
So do I. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Clyde was a wonderful guy. He wasn't even an astronomer, He was just a worker at the observatory, and they gave him time because he knew what he was doing. And he actually went through the old plates and he found Pluto. I talked to him about that when he and I sat down one time. We were at a conference.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, Clyde. Yeah. He was a little guy.
He saw a UFO,
Yeah. And he talked like this. He had a very slight voice. What a wonderful man. No airs, no ego, it's like there's no room for ego when you do the science, you got to just go after your science, I
think all astronomers realize that, we're pretty small compared to what's out there.
Yeah. It really humbles you. Yeah. If you think you have an ego, just look up. Okay. So as far as Nibiru and Planet 10, okay, Evan, one thing I wanted to mention was the Vera Rubin is not the best tool for that. The best tool for that is the James Webb. Right. The James Webb looks in the infrared only, okay? And any planet that's difficult to see will show up much more brightly in the infrared, okay, than in the visible light, right? So An infrared spot out there will show up better. That's why you use infrared on orbital platforms or very high mountaintops. But I think that the James Webb has some potential tasking probably to scan the outer solar system and look for other warm bodies out there that might be out there. There's some theoretical ones, but we notice Jupiter being tugged and pushed around a little bit if they were there, something the size of the Earth. So we don't see any of that. Uranus and Neptune, Pluto, Saturn would all be tugging and moving a little bit, and we don't see any of that. So there's probably a bunch of larger bodies out there, but nothing that we think this might be the size of the Earth so far.
Are you keeping track on how many exoplanets they're finding and how many might be Earth-like?
Absolutely. Exoplanets were my specialty when after I got my degree in astronomy. In fact, that's why the book has that subtext, life in the universe might be the rule, not the exception, because we're talking about, we're talking about how many planets out there might actually support life. And, the Drake equation by Frank Drake famously found one, because when you ask the question, well, how many planets out there are there that can support life? Well, we only know of one. Okay.
Yep.
So, but now we know of many that could possibly support life. And I will say this, it's not yet confirmed, but it looks like the James Webb Space Telescope may have found life on another world. Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Of course you were. Yeah. There's a compound that was found in the atmosphere of a planet, Kepler-12b. Kepler-12 is the name of the star, and the little b is the planet. There's no little a. It starts with little b. So that's what we did. We just like to confuse people. All right. But there was this compound that was found in the atmosphere of Kepler-12b, and it looks like it's something called a Hycean world, meaning a hydrogen atmosphere. So far, it doesn't look very promising for us. However, it's a planet that looks like it might be a lot larger, not a lot, but significantly enough larger than the Earth that anything we find will be that much more. So what does that mean? It means that it looks like that there's a compound that was found in the atmosphere of this planet that is only made by life.
That's right. Yep.
Do you know what it is?
Carbon, I think.
No.
Right.
Carbon's everywhere. Carbon's the fourth most abundant element in the universe. Oxygen's the third. No, it's a compound called dimethyl sulfide. Now, I didn't expect anybody to really know that, but that people would if they understood. For instance, when you go down to the ocean, right? When you go to the ocean, does it smell good when it's low tide?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of like the smell, but
No.
that's just me.
Yeah. Well, what you're smelling is the waste product of countless dead animals. All right. And you're actually smelling dimethyl sulfide because it's a compound that's only made by life, as far as we know. And it would be very hard for something inorganic to make this organic compound. So the point being is that this particular compound is a signal that there might be life in this atmosphere or in this on this planet. The problem is there's so much of it seemingly coming from Kepler-12b. But then after analyzing the planet, it looks like it's a water world.
Right.
Now, we have 75% of our planet covered by water.
Right.
How about a planet with 100%? And how about the planet being bigger? The amount of dimethyl sulfide would increase proportionately.
So would that have been detected through spectroscopy?
Very good. Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, they take a spectrum of the star and they wait for the planet to pass in front of the star. And when it does, a little bit of the planet's atmosphere is now going in front of the star. And so here's the planet. Here's the planet. And now the rim of its atmosphere is seen as polluting the star's spectrum. And so they can see new spectral lines showing up. And dimethyl sulfide seems to be one of them.
Right.
So that is how we're going to find life.
See, I would be interested to know as well as if they have carbon dioxide in their atmosphere as well.
Yeah, carbon dioxide is relatively common. Volcanoes emit it.
Right.
Okay, not as much as we might expect, but yes, water vapor, water. This planet seems to be loaded with it. So you see, there's all kinds of really cool things, and so looking out in front of us is coming. Is this coming? I guess what we call it. This is going to be an amazing next few years because the James Webb, the Vera Rubin, and the other existing telescopes, even the lowly Hubble, okay, which used to be the superstar of the bunch, okay, is going to show us new things in the universe that we've never seen before. I'm looking forward to it.
It already is, yeah.
Well, I think you've already talked about this, but Fun Talks keeps asking me, when is question time? So I'm putting up his question. But the question is, I remember 16, overwhelmed by the mere size of the cosmos, diving into things like quasars, blazars. I've never heard of blazars. Dark holes and spooky action at a distance. Do you recall your beginning? Well, you talked about that.
Yeah, I will say this though about that though. Spooky action at a distance is why we know, and I started to allude to it, why we know that that person that we hadn't talked to in 10 years just called us, and we feel that, well, that's actually quantum entanglement, but at a brain level, okay, in my view. All right. And I said that science doesn't understand that yet, but it is quantum entanglement, and I made up the word called brainular level. So somebody sent out a feeler saying, I haven't talked to Mark in a long time. I should call him. And I was probably saying, maybe, I haven't talked to him in a long time. So one of us sent that message out and started thinking about that person, and bam, they call. It's like, whoa, I was just thinking of you, or so forth. Yeah. And we are connected. And that's one of the things that I led to earlier. And thanks, Mountain Dan, that was quantum entanglement is what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's one of the things that I think is very important for the human experience, is that we can do this too. We just don't really have the ability to quantify this yet, but that's coming.
Well, we're out of time, unfortunately.
Can we have you come back again?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to put you on every month? Would you like to do that, like once a month?
I could come on and talk about cool astronomy things in the cosmos.
Anything new, you just let us know.
Every couple of months, I would.
Yeah. I don't have to be there. I don't have to be there every single month, but I can be there every couple of months for sure.
We didn't even really get to touch on the astronomy there's so much to talk about. But yeah, check out Marc Dantonio's book, The Populated Universe. Life in the universe may very well be the rule, not the exception.
Yeah.
There are lots of links in the show notes. Any last words you want to leave our peeps with?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are having a good time, then check out skytourlive.org. We're a nonprofit. We run on support from folks that are interested in the topic. Our goal is to enlighten and teach people astronomy in ways that they couldn't imagine possible. It's a live classroom. It's a live laboratory, and you get to be there in the front row seat. People make popcorn and sit in front of giant screen TVs and eat popcorn while hearing us talk about these amazing astronomical objects that we're now showing right on the screen live. It's the universe live in real time. It doesn't get any better than that, guys.
No, it doesn't.
Skytourlive.org.
Wow. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out, and hope everyone else does too. Thanks so much, Mark. This was absolutely enlightening and so interesting, and all good things.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Anytime, please come back. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out to all you guys watching us. Thanks so much for the donations. Namaste and
Thank
Bob
you.
Thorson. It helps us a lot, in my opinion. Janie Mashburn, you guys really delivered tonight, especially Janie twice. Wow.
Thank you.
Yahira, Medium, Owlman, you guys are amazing. Sorry we didn't get to all the questions, but we got to most of them. So, yeah, can't wait to have you back, Mark.
Well, thanks, guys. It was a pleasure being here.
Absolutely.
We'll see you again.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Light Gate on this beautiful Monday night. We are coming to you live from the New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We are on Facebook, we're on Roku, we're on Rumble, and we're on YouTube. Y'all, please have a wonderful week. Be safe and namaste. Thank you all. And night-night.
Bye, everyone.